Hello, my fellow bookish people. Today I'm coming to you with a run-up, a warm-up of sorts. In September, Jason and Lukas and Steve do Shaketober, where they read the plays of Shakespeare by week. Every week, each one of them has picked a different Shakespearean play, and you're invited to read or watch or participate in all three of their choices in each of the weeks, and makes for a really good rush of Shakespeare. But what I was thinking was to start off to get warmed up for Shaketober, but gotta build up the muscles for the Shakespeare, is that I would do a reading of Shakespeare's contemporaries. One thing I've always heard about Shakespeare is, yes, Shakespeare is one of the great writers of the English language, one of the writers in a way, somebody who was there at the formation of English's English and a lot of how we are, but that he came from a generation of writers. He was surrounded by amazing writers, and that it was truly in dialogue with all these fellows that his work came out. And it's a good way to kind of understand his works, is to actually say, okay, well, what was going on? What were the works that he was responding to or copying or making fun of at that time? So I figured for a warm up in August, I would go through four plays of Shakespearean kind of contemporaries, people around in the same era. And I happened to be in a thrift store in a university town, and was able to find the Norton Anthology of English Literature. This is the 16th century and the early 17th century. And as Steve often points out, Norton anthologies are a really good way to go for picking up stuff. So with the exception of my first choice, all three of the other plays that I'm going to be reading are contained in here. So that said, let me just tell you about what I've picked. So for August the 4th, I'll start off by doing The Spanish Tragedie by Thomas Kyd, which is thought to be, these are all kind of estimate dates, was thought to be written like 1582 to 1592, and is considered the first and kind of the big influential revenge play or revenge tragedy, and said to have kind of very much influenced something like Shakespeare's Hamlet, for example. So yeah, I'm going to start off with The Spanish Tragedie. On the 11th, I'm going to do The Tragical History of Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe, which is 1589 to 1592 is sort of the guess on when that was first composed or performed. Christopher Marlowe, born in the same year as Shakespeare, his life was cut off quite early in his career. Some people speculate, really at the amount of time he had lived, if you line that up with what Shakespeare had done, if Shakespeare had only written what he had written at that point, he wouldn't actually be particularly that well known today. But that Christopher Marlowe was actually able to crank out some quite amazing, influential plays within his short lifetime. So that's for the 11th. For the 18th, I'm going to do, we've got all these tragedies. Let's get a Yuckster comedy. I don't know if it is a Yuckster comedy, but I'm going to do Volpone, or The Fox by Ben Jonson, which is thought to be kind of 1605 to 1606, and yeah, is a comedy play. And then finally, on August the 25th, I'm going to do The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster, thought to have been kind of performed 1612 to 1613, which is we'll get back into revenge, a Jacobean revenge tragedy. So Shakespeare, his career kind of spans from, these are all guesstimate dates again, and I think Shakespeare probably wrote his plays, is like from Henry V, Part 1 in 1589 to 1590, to the Two Nobles' Kinsmen in 1612, 1613. So, from the Spanish Tragedy, 1582-ish, to the Duchess of Malfi, 1613, that gives me a kind of a general kind of good kind of swath of what was going on when Shakespeare was active. So yes, I finish on the 25th, and my only other thing is I'm going to be probably grabbing a nonfiction book to be I'll start it in late August, that last week there, where actually I'm going to be doing some other stuff too. So it's a good time to just have something. I'm going to pick up some nonfiction book on Shakespeare to start reading, and then I'll probably continue reading it through Shaketober, September. Possible books are going to be either This Is Shakespeare by Emma Smith. Here's a little kind of blurb thingy on it. So much of what we say about Shakespeare is either not true or just not relevant, deflecting us from investigating the challenges of his inconsistencies and flaws. This electrifying new book thrives on revealing, not resolving, the ambiguities of Shakespeare's plays and their changing topicality. It introduces an intellectual, theatrical, and ethically exciting writer who engages with intersectionality as much as with Ovid, with economics, as much with poetry, who writes in strikingly modern ways about individual agency, privacy, politics, celebrity, and sex. It takes us into a world of politicking and copycatting as we watch him emulate the blockbusters of Christopher Marlowe or Thomas Kyd, the Spielberg and Tarantino of their day. So that's one of the reasons, actually, I went back and got a Thomas Kyd, the Spanish Tragedie, because it's like, oh, okay, well, there is another contemporary I can add on to my list of 3 at that point. The other possibility is Women of Will, following the feminine in Shakespeare's plays by Tina Packer, which has been pushed by Kelly at books I'm not reading. A profound and profoundly illuminating book that gives us the playwright's changing understanding of the feminine and reveals some of his deepest insights. Packer, with expert grasp and perception, constructs a radically different understanding of power, sexuality, and redemption. Women of Will follows Shakespeare's development as a human being, from youth to enlightened maturity, exploring the spiritual journey he undertook. Packer shows that Shakespeare's imagination, mirrored and revealed in his female characters, develops and deepens until finally the women, his creative knowledge, and a sense of a larger spiritual good come together in the late plays, making clear that when women and men are equal in status and sexual passion, they can and do change the world. So I will probably we'll see. I've got my feelers out at the local library, and if none of those feelers come in, I may just end up probably downloading one of those books from the evil Amazon empire. And yeah, so that is my plans for warming up myself for Shaketober. I don't know if you've got any plans to warm up, or if you're just going to just plunge in September to Shaketober. I totally recommend it. Jason, Lukas, and Steve are really great guides. They all have their own kind of individual takes on Shakespeare, and I just love being. I think the best way to deal with Shakespeare is to immerse yourself in Shakespeare, and so my warm up thing is to hopefully kind of get myself into that headspace a little bit further, and also maybe to kind of get a feel of like the genre, like the revenge genre. Thinking about it like something as like Hamlet is a genre piece, which is. We've had a little discussion lately about literary fiction and how, it transcends genre. It just does its own thing. Well, something like Hamlet is very much a genre piece. So people will argue. Of course, when something becomes too good, they say it transcends the genre and becomes literature. Because if it becomes too, okay, I'm ranting. If you want a really great rant video on literary fiction, a little bit more narrow, I will also link to Steve doing a literary booktube tag video, which was hilarious, and all those poor literary butterflies, but it was fun to watch, and he vents his spleen much better than I do. So on this rambly all over the place note, I will simply say I'm going to put links down below to Shaketober, and hope you enjoy that. And if you feel like tuning back in and hearing my vague thoughts on these plays, which actually I'm also put together a watch list, because one of the things I love to do with plays is actually to see them performed. And I really don't care if it's a school production or if it's the Shakespearean company, the British Shakespearean company, whatever it's called. See now, a professional company doing it. I always love watching these plays actually, brought to life on the stage. It makes me think about things a lot better. So I will put a link down below to which, because I was able to find like all of these plays in most part performed. Either it's been heavily amended or sometimes it's like sort of like little clips and readings. But that's always a fun part. I find a fun part of at least for. I've found that for Shakespeare, and I hopefully will find that with his contemporaries. So yes, Shaketober, it's coming. So be prepared. More videos later.